Okay, the game we're going to do now is called Zoom Story. This is where one player is going to improvise a story. The guide is going to come up with a sentence that will begin the story. That's going to be the springboard for the story. And during the course of the story, the guide will be asking the player to zoom into action, feeling, environment, object, and ending as you're continuing the story. So the sentence I'm going to give you is give the sentence we talked about. I looked out the window and I saw someone walking up the driveway. That's how you're going to begin the story.
I looked out the window and I saw somebody coming up the driveway. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was Peter. He was returning home after all those years at the war. I was so relieved to see him.
Zoom into feeling.
I I felt so happy and yet so sad that I think that I had changed so much that he might not really recognize me. I was feeling confused. Would he be the same? I felt very worried because I wondered if that bullet to his head had done anything with his personality. I was,
Zoom into environment. Environment.
he approached the front door of my little home in the woods. We had built it together, a little cottage, a very homey little cottage with a fireplace. In fact, the smoke was coming out of the fireplace. And he came towards the door and I was standing there and our dog jumped out to greet him. He was so excited.
Zoom into object. Zoom into an object.
Peter started to stumble over the steps. They had been rebuilt since the last time he had been there. And then, instead of being smooth steps, it was more of an archway that kind of went up and down. It was a very interesting entry to a home in terms of steps. We can't really call them steps because it was like a cement archway. It went up and then it came down.
Zoom into action.
I jumped into Peter's arms. I couldn't hold him tight enough. And he held me so tight as well. And I said, Peter, Peter, Peter. And he said, Sally?
Zoom into ending.
All right, well, you know, my name is Maria. And his first wife was Sally. So I decided to let it go. So he came in the house and I forever after then called him Peter. He can call me Sally, whatever he wants to call me. My love is at home and we're very much at peace.
All right, let's say period. That was great. That was a good story. And I forgot to mention with all of these games, when the guide can either end it or the player can end it at any time by just saying period. And the thing with the directions, the guide can also go back and forth. You can go back to feeling, back to object. It's all based on how long you want to keep the story and being attentive to what the player is putting out there that you can jump onto. So that was great. That was great.
Thank you. It's almost like a Rorschach test. I can't pronounce it now, but the idea that you can interpret what your client, the answers, the responses, what they say for feelings. I think that you could do a lot with this in a clinical situation. That's a terrific game, David.
Yeah, it's the
I'm
thing
stopping
also.
because I called you David.
Yeah, you called me David. I
just
gotta shave the beard.
I just
And I also